Hey y'all. So for this video, I'm not going to teach any lessons in this video. This is just going to be a general discussion on numerology. And I want to talk to you all about I would say one of my numerology mentors. I think I mentioned in a previous video, I started down this road about 2 years ago. And the first person who introduced me to numerology, her name is Nikki Nicole Copey. And she did all my numbers and she did my name. She did all that stuff. That's going to be a different lesson. I don't feel like doing that lesson right now. But she did that. And then after that, I said, I need to learn more of this. Where can I learn? She said, just start picking up books. And at first I wasn't finding books, or I wasn't finding books that clicked with me. And so as I've stated before, this was the first book that clicked with me. Helping Yourself with Numerology by Helyn Hitchcock. I think that's how to say her name. It says it's a classic book, and it was written in 1972. So really quick, before I'm going to come back to this, because this book introduced me to who I would say my numerology mentor in one of her chapters, and I went on this to go look for her. The next books, and I'll put all this in there. Your Lucky Number. This one is a fun one. It's a short read. This goes more into your actual birth number and what your birth number means. So this is a fun one to 28, 10. There were a lot of 10s in the last few videos and what that means for the person. I did one of these for my dad as a gift, and I read his number. And he really loved it. So I read his number, and this one even goes through the roots of numerology and Babylonian and Chaldean cultures, for example, the roots of numerology. So those are just some of the books. Let me go into the things that I think are exciting. So in this book, I started asking questions like, I want to know more about this, want to know more about that. And then I listen intuitively and I'm guided. And so I was guided in this book to one of the chapters in the end, 21. It was called The Kabbalah and Abracadabra Numerological Methods of Predictions. I did the Kabbalah a little bit. I was lost. I did the Abracadabra. I was also lost. But what I found was there was a little part in here where the author, now like I said, this book was in 1972, where the author mentioned someone else and made it seem like this person just recently passed away. So I was like, oh, they must have passed away a long time ago. So a Kabbalah with a key for you to use. A few Kabbalahs are still in use for divination purposes by numerologists, but most of them have become obsolete due to the fact that the keys to interpret them have been lost. So if you love to find things, you can find a key to a numerology Kabbalah. Fortunately, years ago, I acquired an ancient method with its corresponding key. It is not my delineation. I love that when people credit the person that actually gave them the info. I believe it was given to me by Orcella Rexford, a numerologist who has been dead for many years. So like I said, when she said the numerologists have been dead for many years, I was like, who is this person? And I want to know about them. So I went on a little search and I started looking. And when I go on searches and tap in and pray and meditate, I get all kinds of answers. And so I found the name, right? I had the name. I said, I need to find out more. I meditated on it. I had a dream. I know I had another dream one in there. I had a dream. There were numbers and all other stuff. But when I woke up from the dream, there was a Georg Michaelis song playing. And I've learned that's how my spirit squad talks to me. They talk in songs. And it was a Georg Michaelis song playing. And I was like, what's really going on? I was like, all right. So I wrote it down and went on what I was doing. So I started looking for Orcella Rexford. And I found her. I get excited. I found her. I found her in Ancestry.com, and I found her. She has like 2 or 3 different names, but listen to this. The paper I found her in is the Boston Globe, Boston, Massachusetts, August 12th, 1917. Over 100 years ago, there was a numerologist who had numerology spreads in the newspapers. I don't know why this excited me. Maybe because I was like, there was a woman who had freedom and could write for a paper and was doing all kinds of things. So I found all kinds of things on her. And what was funny is, and I can't find it to show you all, in one of the articles, I even have what she looks like, which is right there. In one of the articles I found, she was doing the numerology for the, now this was, I think I want to say by then, I think we may have been in the 1930s. She was doing the numerology for the German chancellor, whose name was Georg Michaelis. So I laugh because one, I feel like my spirit squad is always doing stuff that makes me laugh. And so the George Michael song, and then a day later finding the Georg Michaelis in one of the papers. And I didn't know it until I printed it off because the words are so small, right? The words are so small. So Orcella Rexford, so this is kind of a numerology history lesson. Orcella Rexford, her real name that she was born with is Louise Powell. And she changed her name because she was into the vibration of the name. Like, what's your name? Well, I mean, yeah, what's your number? What's your vibe? She was into the vibration of names and said, if you want to take control of your life, if you want to be a leader, if you want to be someone that goes after things, just change your name. Look up the numerology of your name. That's a different lesson I haven't done yet. And change it. And so her name that given at birth was Louise Powell. And I'll read some of this to you. Miss Powell is a well-educated, attractive, young Western woman, a graduate of the University of California, where she specialized along philosophical and psychological lines. Although a Western girl by birth and education, she is a direct descendant of Governor Dudley, Anne Hutchinson, Edward Holyoake, the 10th president of Harvard, and others of the most distinguished families of New England. She is a member of the Daughters of the American Revolution and the National Association of Collegiate Alumni. So I know back then in 1917, for them to have to put her whole pedigree on there, they were, and I'm just saying this, they had to say this is the reason why she's worth being in the paper and worth you paying attention to her. She ended up having what I read, a wonderful life, and she died suddenly, very sadly. She is laboring in a singularly novel field and bringing forth remarkable results. In the last year, the cities of the Eastern Coast have listened to her astonishing lectures and given her new adherents by the thousands. She has traveled up and down the land, carrying on original research work in many obscure branches of experimental psychology, and her investigations have carried her to the shores of Hawaii, the banana plantation of British Honduras, with quests of importance through Canada, Cuba, and Jamaica. Now, once again, a woman in 1917, that means this woman had means, that means this woman had pedigree, she had all these things to be in the paper, to be moving around that much, and to be a numerologist. And like I said, it was interesting to me that I'd never heard of her. And of course, I'm like, oh, I want to hear more. The past 4 months, she lectured in Washington, where she was welcomed by many large organizations and explained her methods from the pulpits of some of the largest churches and vocational schools in the city. I should say that the way that I found Orcella Rexford and this history, I found her through, it was a church. I can't remember the name of the church. I found her through, it was a church website. It was the strangest thing. It was, anyway, some church back then, like a major denomination of church. And so anyway, let me go back. The largest churches and vocational schools in the city. Study classes were formed to leaders of society who have seen the importance and underlying value of the science of names and numbers. And so that's what she was calling it. That's what they called it, numerology, the science of names and numbers. In private entertainments, Miss Powell has read the number scopes. That's what they called it back then, the number scopes of guests so convincingly as as to introduce a new and novel interest in social circles. While in the capital city, she read the president, members of Congress, the diplomatic corps, and many high in government service. Like I said, from what I found, she had read the Chancellor of Germany, George, it was spelled a little bit different, Michaelis, which reminded me of George Michael. And then she has a whole article, which is going to be hard for you all to see. She has a whole article that she wrote on President Wilson, and this is also from August 12th, 1917. She hadn't changed her name yet. And so it even says, next Sunday, Miss Powell will write further on the science of names and numbers, and by the way of illustration, will give the character of the Russian premier, Alexander Kerensky. And so that's how I love this stuff. I love finding it, but she's like the inner self vibrating to 22. So she's going through President Wilson's numbers, and she talks about his inner self being a 22, his hidden force being a 4, outer self of 11, 5, with the hidden force of 7. I'd have to go deeper into all of those. We do not use those same words now. It's over 100 years later, so we use different words, but it's still the same numbers. So I mentioned before, the numbers and the vibrations are the same. We just use it differently. And so she decided at some point that the name Louise Powell was not, it didn't have the right vibration. So she changed her name to Orcella Rexford. This kind of reminds me of Marilyn Monroe, and I'm still trying to do the investigation into that. If there's anything numerological about some of the names, even in recent times. And so in the papers back then, this is from, let me see one that has it. Like I said, I'm glad I can come on here and talk to y'all about this stuff, because I feel like when I talk to other people, they're like, what are you talking about? Okay. So this one is also from 1917, and it goes into how are letters numbered. This was in the paper in 1917. This same way that letters are numbered, that is in all the books of today. So that's in Helyn Hitchcock's book. That's in one of the books that I like, The Secret of Numbers Revealed, which if you're into what is it called? Mojo. Oh my gosh. The Mojo. So Catherine Ironwood, Louis de Claremont, Dr. Roy Page Walton, my brain just went. So I don't know if I'm supposed to talk about this right now. So anyway, so I'll put this in the thing if you want more on numbers revealed. And but what I wasn't finding, even with this book and some of the others, I wasn't finding women of the past who wrote about numerology. And then I found her, and that's what I was looking for. Orcella Rexford, Louise Powell, same person. And she has a different name on that because she did get married. And then she died suddenly. I think she died in a bathtub. But I have her newspaper clippings of some of the work that she did over 100 years ago. Very excited about that. The other thing I have that I found is her book. She has a book. There's a book from back in the day. It's a I don't know. Let me look who republished it. Someone republished it. She called it, and some of these I couldn't find. Your Name and You, Numerology Made Easy. And you see a lot of things called that now. It says Orcella Rexford BS, author of Mental Radio, The Science of Color, The Psychology of Color, The Psychology of Clothes, The Joy and Symbolism of Color, How Colors Reveal the Character, Names and Their Numbers, Character Revealed Through the Basic Temperaments. I haven't been able to find all these books. I found one, I don't think it was in print anymore. And then this copyright is 1928. We're coming up on 100 years for this book. Yes, I love old stuff. I have a few old books in there. So 1928, there's a dedication to her husband in the front. And then just a few other things. There's an Arabian proverb. I'm going to read this to y'all because this is just my free video to talk about whatever I want to talk about. Men are four. So I love it. We're going to start off with numbers. He who knows and knows he knows. He is wise. Follow him. He who knows and knows not he knows, he is asleep, wake him up. He who knows not and knows not he knows not, he is a fool, shun him. He who knows not and knows he knows not, he is a child, teach him. An Arabian proverb. The next one, but words are things, and a small drop of ink falling like dew upon a thought produces that which makes thousands, perhaps millions think. Byron. There's a preface. This preface is by the publishers. Nothing succeeds like success. The best fiction is generally based on the best facts. To those who know personally the author of Your Name and You, Orcella Rexford, this book of semi-fiction would be doubly interesting. For the facts in Miss Rexford's own life serve as a clincher for the fiction of this story. It is not so many years ago that she was a student in the University of California, unknown, rather diffident and shy, without money and facing life under severe handicap of an injured spine. In the few years that have intervened, Orcella Rexford, through her understanding of numerology in the science of knowing yourself, and with the aid of a successful adopted name, has remade herself to an amazing extent. In excellent health today, internationally known as a teacher and writer, happily married and eminently successful in her lecturing both here and abroad, her own life proves the actual value of the serious undercurrent teaching in this book. After all, good fiction is no stranger to the truth. And so, like I said, I really enjoy this book. And for like the third time, it opened to the same page. So I'm going to read a little bit of chapter 6 to you. Chapter 6, Numerology, Lesson 1. This is from Your Name and You, Numerology Made Easy by Orcella Rexford or Louise Powell. The next evening found the three friends together, eager to begin bending over the table on which were scattered books, papers, and pencils. Will you tell me what a name has anything to do with a person's life? Asked John. It has puzzled me not a little. I can't see what difference one name or another should make, or why there should be any connection between a name and an individual's character. Well, it does seem paradoxical that there should be any relationship, replied Zare. As Carlyle remarked, names? Could I unfold the influence of names, which are the most important of all clothings? I were a second Trismegistus. We go back to the statement that life is vibration. Life is vibration. The vibrations of the name release into the ethers a message which beats out a rhythm. The name is a rhythm beating upon the subconscious, which sets up a response generating thoughts and impulses, which in turn develop character. One acts in accordance with this name until it is changed. Every letter has its sound, form, and color, and its rate of vibration, called number vibrations. Work through the name, producing a chord of sympathy between man and his surroundings, and reveal past, present, and future conditions. Thus, a numerologist can determine character by looking at a name. Is one name better than an individual, better for an individual than another then? Queried John, who seemed to have some difficulty in adjusting his process of thinking to this form of reasoning. So that was just a little excerpt from the book by Orcella Rexford called Your Name and You, Numerology Made Easy. Like I said, I'm excited. I was excited to find the book and order it. Copyright 1928, and then I found her newspaper clippings from August 12th, 1917 in the Boston Globe. So, and I found all of that from the original book that I got, which was Helping Yourself with numerology. And I absolutely love this book. I haven't even done all the things in this book because I went straight to how do I get through each day. So that was just a quick discussion for your, for the last lesson, just to discuss this discussion. Let me know what questions y'all have, and I will highlight this book. And I need to see if I can find ways to highlight her newspaper clipping so you all can see that. I have to figure that part out because I think it is so cool to find a woman numerologist over 100 years ago who was putting numerology in the papers and talking to crowds about it. So I think that's amazing. So that's all I have for tonight. Everyone, know your number and your vibe. Enjoy your number and your vibe. And as the book says, it's all about vibration. Have a great night.